The cutoff sleeve, is that just...
That's a trademark.
That's a trademark?
He has 3 shirts with sleeves.
Your black shirt blends so well. I want to make sure folks are aware of the fact that that is a true cutoff sleeve.
You're going to get every redneck from California wanting to order that.
Sun's out, guns out.
So our gritty tip is wear that cutoff sleeve shirt. Work that cutoff sleeve shirt. Make it work for you. And as you feel that manliness, you'll be calling in twice the bulls.
I'm probably going to bring that Sitka or that Swazi and just suck it up and look like an axe murderer on the side of the mountain, because the thing is even though you look like you're wearing a dress and you're getting ready to serve, Swiss Miss Mocha or whatever, it does keep your ass dry, right?
I wanted to ask you a lot of questions about, because you were conspicuously absent when we talked about who the best caller was in that conversation with Ty.
Well, depends.
And who was the ice in the veins killer? You just weren't mentioned.
No, because I'm behind the camera.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
You know what you look like is like the man from Snowy River. It's like a duster, but with rain gear, right?
We're here with Josh Keller, the infamous Josh Keller, and Ty Stubblefield.
Why am I famous in a bad way?
Infamous.
That's what that means, Larry.
Trent, I will say, is Iceman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like that. I pull my bow back, and
it's dead.
No, that's the reason I'm pulling my bow back, is to kill that bull.
Yeah.
And it's dead. Every time.
Yeah.
One arrow.
That's pretty sweet.
Ty, his nickname is 3 Arrow. No, true story. It doesn't matter. He gets
Naked Man 3 Arrow?
Yeah, exactly. But he gets 3 arrows off before I can even knock a second arrow. It's just bonk, bonk, bonk. I smoked 2 of the times. One was in the tree.
That one in the tree is awesome.
We are Full Draw Film Tour,
And we are listening to
The Gritty Bowman!
Yeah!
Hello, all right. You're listening to the Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Hey, this is Corey Jacobson, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
We bone and raised outdoors, and you've been listening to The Gritty Bowman.
There you go.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're watching
The Gritty Bowman.
On this episode of Gritty Bowman, we talk to my lifetime friend and hunting partner and fellow Gritty Bowman, Anthony Spencer, about his 2015 bull elk he harvested last weekend.
If you like the show, please go to our website at grittybowman.com and subscribe to this podcast and tell your mates and pals about us. Do us a favor and please take a moment to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes or on our YouTube channel. Send your questions and podcast ideas to grittybowman@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see the video version of this podcast on our website at www.grittybowman.com.
Friends, I highly recommend that you watch this podcast if you can, as I have video and photo images from the hunt overlaying much of the conversation. As for this hunt, as Aaron Snyder says, I'm not going to church it up. We made some dumb mistakes on this hunt, and I guess that's part of why I love hunting. There are no guarantees, just like in life. We all work hard to perfect our skills, our shooting, our calling, our fieldcraft, our fitness, but at the end of the day, things can and do go wrong during a hunt, as they do in life, and you've got to improvise. Sometimes it's not skill that you need, it's grit, it's determination, and Anthony Spencer has that. He's as gritty as they come. I wish I could say that Anthony's bull felt no pain and went down easy, but it didn't work out that way. Taking the life of another sentient being is not something we take lightly, yet it's an everyday part of the natural world we live in. Animals hunt to eat and eat to live, including humans, and this endeavor results in pain and death to animals every day. An ethical and compassionate hunter will always do his best to make the death as swift and painless as possible, but sometimes, despite our best efforts, we fail in this. There are no guarantees, no gimmies in hunting, nor in life. Things will and do go wrong if you hunt long enough, and I'm okay with that, because that's how life is. I didn't want my wife to have cancer, but it happened. Sometimes we don't get to choose how it goes. The hunting TV industry likes to pretend that mistakes don't happen and animals don't suffer, but that's not reality. The Gritty Bowman isn't on a TV network. We don't have anybody telling us what we can and cannot show, so what you get is the gritty truth. And I'm sorry to those who imagine that bliss is normal, because as Jenkin Lloyd Jones said, you're going to waste a lot of time running around shouting that you've been robbed. The fact is that most putts don't drop, most beef is tough, most children grow up to be just people, most jobs are more dull than otherwise. Life is like an old-time rail journey. Delays, sidetracks, smoke, dust, cinders, and jolts, interspersed only occasionally by beautiful vistas and thrilling bursts of speed. The trick is to thank the Lord for letting you have the ride.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Okay, all right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. I am here in Anthony Spencer's garage. We're cutting up, butchering his elk. Mostly Anthony's butchering it. Hey, I'm the sound and equipment guy.
You've been working on equipment. I think you've been taking your sweet time.
No, I really do want to join into this joyful occasion.
Yeah.
So we're in your garage in Wyoming.
In Wyoming, yeah.
And
great cowboy state.
We are. We just got done getting a great bull. You did.
Yeah.
So folks, we just went on a great elk hunt. We're in his garage butchering the elk up, and we're gonna do a little podcast. We better do it now. We don't really have time to wait, or it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
This is classic style for us. So we're going to do it right now while we're butchering, and basically, Anthony, you're going to tell us about how the whole thing went down.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of video and photographs, which we're going to overlay on this podcast. So if you're going to watch this, that's better than if you just listen to it. Or you might listen to it and then go back and watch it if it interests you. But we got a bunch of video of this hunt that we're going to throw in there and a bunch of photos. So check that out. But all right, Anthony, with that, let me fix your mic.
What about makeup?
No, you don't need. Well, it would help probably. But.
So this year, Brian and Ben had planned on coming over here to Wyoming the last 10 days of the season. And so I didn't want to hunt just 10 days. So I took the first week off as well, first 8 days of the season, I guess, and was going to go it alone and just thought I'd kind of scout at first and stuff. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, having 3 tags to fill in the last 10 days is a tall order for guys of our skill. So I thought, I'm going to try really hard to tag out before they get here.
We only have so much vacation time.
Yeah, and we got a Colorado hunt later on this year, and so I really wanted to tag out anyway. I knew that would mean I wouldn't get my hunt on film. I was going to try to do as much as I could myself, which, I had very, very marginal success with. But anyway, I had 8 days to just go and hit it by myself. And so I backpacked in, I guess it was 2 3-day trips because they were different areas I wanted to check out. and then go back out for Monday and Tuesday in whichever area was.
Dude, you're boring me.
Had the most potential.
Okay, get on with it.
So, Brian, the devil's in the details.
All right, go on.
Anyway, I just setting the stage. So I'm into my last second 3-day hunt, and so I'm in there right away. I'm getting into elk. There's a lot of elk out there. There's a lot of bulls, and the very first day out, I get a stalk on a really nice 7x8 that I watched all last year. Old bull, doesn't score real high. Really old, big, mature bull. Totally a scenario where you just couldn't screw it up. I mean, he was dead. But I am one special kind of elk hunter, and I can take a sure thing and turn it into a blown opportunity better than probably anyone. And so that one ended up in failure. Got a few video and pictures, but
got close.
Got
like
really
50
close.
Yards.
55 yards in his bed.
And basically, he was bedded, and you kind of thought maybe he got up and left. And
well, I blew 2 does out right before I got to him.
Yeah, that's
3
right.
does actually, and we had this standoff for 20 minutes, and finally they blew out, and I thought surely they took him with them because I could not find him in this wide open basin. Well, he was bedded in a rabbit hole basically, and I didn't see him, and he blew out of there. So that was the end of that. So I spent the next day in the pouring down rain, getting soaked, hunting elk, into elk all day. We had a great time. Kind of thought I'd head out that night. I'd watched the bull bed up in a basin. That was kind of on my way out. And I thought, well, I'll make an evening hunt on him and then head out and, be home for Sunday. And so I did that evening. It kind of set up below him. Wind wasn't great, so I didn't get too close. As evening came and the wind settled, I started trying to call him in and had cows just going crazy, responding. And one little bugle came out of, didn't sound like him. But anyway, long story, even longer here. The herd eventually fed out above me, and I didn't ever see the big bull that I was after. I did see a smaller 6-point, and I kind of thought, I'm going to shoot him. He's not a really big bull, but I really want to get a bull down before Brian and Ben get here, and so I thought I'd shoot him. And so I just busted my tail to get around this hill. They were up above me, maybe 100, 200 feet in elevation, and my legs were screaming and my lungs were screaming, but I was just doing my best to get around the base of this hill and climb and kind of meet them on the other side. And when I topped out, or I didn't top out, but I got close to a couple cows, I threw my heads up decoy. It was on the front of my bow. I'd first year using one of those. Threw it up, and they just accepted me as an elk and kept feeding right 40 yards from me. And
that's pretty cool with the heads up that it worked like that. Now, it didn't work like that every single time.
No, I actually had a lot of
failures.
Frustration with it. No offense, heads up, but maybe I'm just not using it right. I had a lot of failures. I had a few minor successes, but it was pretty vital in shooting this bull. Those cows looked at me, and I was charging up the hill, actually. I wasn't being sneaky at all. And they heard me, and they looked down and saw that head and just went back to feed and didn't pay me any attention. And so I'm just thinking, now maybe I cut off that little bull, and then next thing I know, here comes the bigger bull that I knew was in there. I started chasing the cow that was right in front of me. And so I couldn't range him at first. There was too much grass in the way with the steepness of the hill. And so I just guessed. I thought, you know what, I think he's 60 yards. So I set my slider on my, shoot a Montana Black Gold Ascent. I took a shot. Actually, he wouldn't stop, so I knew he'd traveled a little bit farther. He's chasing a cow around. I tried to cow call him to stop him. He wouldn't stop. So I aimed high. I put my 60 high on his back. I figured he'd maybe move 10 yards and shot. And for the sake of full disclosure here, I made a really bad shot and did not hit him well. Actually, I thought I smoked him at the time. Thought I just pinwheeled him, but it turned into it was not shot well. I found that out later, as I was expecting him to just drop. And ended up, I had to charge up the hill and glassed him up, and he was hurt real bad. He was not wanting to move, but he was bedded out in a flat with his cows, maybe 25 cows. And I watched him till dark. He tried to get up 4 or 5 times and would move maybe 15 yards and just bed back down. And so I knew he was hurt bad.
So you watched him till dark.
I watched him till it was too black to see
anymore.
Yeah, and then I had about a 3
mile.
And
at the time, what was going through your mind? I mean, you were watching his behavior. Did he look hurt?
He looked really hurt in the front left shoulder, like he could not walk on his front left shoulder.
Yeah.
looked to me like he was getting sick. He struggled to get up 4 or 5 times before he finally would ever make it
And
up.
based on the angle, you're thinking it went in through his guts.
I'm thinking it went into his guts. It was quartering away, and I was really downhill from him.
And you think you nailed him right in the through the guts and into the
into the offside shoulder. Is what it looked to me
which
like.
means you would have hit the vitals.
Which means I would hit the vitals. I knew I hit a little low. So anyway, I watch him till dark. I start leaving. Brian was going to come up later on the next day, right, Brian? You were going to come up.
Yeah.
Next day was Sunday. You were going to meet me up here Sunday. And
after church.
And go hunt with me Monday and Tuesday was your plan. So I called Brian at like 9:22 Saturday night to tell him I just shot one and asked him if he could leave immediately. So Brian, he really surprised me because normally he's kind of selfish. But no, I'm kidding. He jumped out. He said, I can be out of here in 20 minutes. He was doing something on Facebook. I don't know what it was, but posting pictures of the other hunt, I guess.
Yeah.
He said he'd be out of there in 20 minutes. So I actually packed out that night, hiked out 3 miles, take about a couple hours to get home. I got to bed about 2:30. Brian called me about 4 a.m. saying he was almost there.
Yeah, I jumped in the truck a few minutes after you called. And then it's about 6 hours. So I drove.
That's a 6-hour drive, yeah.
I drove all night and got here right about the time so I hadn't slept.
No, you hadn't slept, and I'd had 2.5 hours. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but I had a really brutal day physically before I shot that bull. We were pretty much dead, man. Yeah,
both of us were tired. I had just got, 6 days in Oregon hunting, 5 days of hardcore backpacking,
Yeah. And so we leave about 5 a.m. Brian came, he said he was ready to go, but what that meant was everything he owned was thrown in the back of his pickup. And we had to organize some gear and get his pack loaded. And we got out of there about 5 a.m. And, drove up to the trailhead, hiked in, got there just a little after first light.
Yeah.
There's a huge herd of elk down in the same area he was bedded, but he's not there.
So the first thing we did was go right back to where you saw him last.
We went right back to where I saw him last, and he was not there, but there was 100+ elk where he was.
There were just, the whole basin was full of elk.
The whole basin was full of elk. One nice 6-point.
So we were glassing from the top, trying to see if we could find him, basically, without spooking the herd out of there and blowing them out here. Take that.
Is that just all garbage, or you want me to clean this up?
Clean it up.
Yeah, so what we did is we ended up leaving Brian there to watch the basin while I was going to circle around there. Because if we had spooked him and he left low, we wouldn't have seen him from there.
Yeah, we want to make sure we got into a position where if he blew out of the canyon, if he was still alive, which we both thought he was probably dead.
Yeah.
If he did blow out of the canyon, we wanted to see him exit.
Give me a bowl behind you there.
So we got into strategic positions where we could both view all the exit points, basically.
Yeah, so I was going to come around the bottom of the basin. He was going to watch the top. Just start filling this one up. And so Brian stayed there. I told him it'd take me an hour or so to get in position. It's big country. And so I went around the bottom of the basin, started kind of walking up from the bottom. I could see a lot of the elk bedded up above me. Some of the elk had left the basin by then. Anyway, I get down into a creek bed, and I'm watching all these elk, and I'm getting closer and closer to them. They're really not paying me any attention for some reason, and this bull just rockets out of his bed about 50 yards from me, and I felt like an absolute idiot because he was...
The bull you're after.
The bull I'm after. He's limping bad.
But he's still alive.
He's still alive, and he's running.
Okay.
And so he runs off, and I can't see him. He clears a hill, and I think, well, he's running right to where Brian can see him. So I get up the hill as quick as I can. All the rest of the elk leave. I see them congregate on the hilltop before they're kind of wondering what's going on. And I don't see the bull with them. So I just kind of, eventually I see Brian making his way down to me.
And from my angle, I never saw him at all. There was some hillsides in the way, and there were elk busting everywhere, and I was glassing every group that came out of there, and I could not see him anywhere.
Well, and that's what
I didn't even know Anthony had seen him.
That's what we did know, though. We did know that he did not join those cows.
Yeah, I knew he didn't escape the canyon. I knew he was in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I could see low, and Brian could see high. So, and I didn't see him leave low.
He never came out.
So we thought he's in here somewhere. It's really open. There's a few brush patches. So Brian went over to a kind of a nearby hillside to watch, and I started just checking brush patch by brush patch, just walking into them. They're not very big. A big one's like 10 yards square.
Yeah, I ran over to a vantage point where I could see this one spot in the canyon that neither one of us could see. If he had maybe slipped through there, we'll catch him before he could get her out of it.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way the big herd went before we spooked the other ones.
Yeah, so I was kind of heading over where the big herd was. There's still a ton of elk everywhere.
Yeah, there's elk everywhere. But anyway, long story short, we look at all the brush patches and we don't find him. And I'm convinced, I know he hasn't left this basin. And so I'm looking around like, okay, where did we miss? In the meantime, Brian comes off that little hill.
And this is thoroughly embarrassing. Absolutely.
Now, here, let me just clarify this. I called Brian to help because, Brian's a blacktail hunter. And no detail escapes a hardcore blacktail hunter.
Where are you going with this?
Right?
Yeah.
So, the blacktail hunters, when you're hardcore, nothing gets by you. You're tuned into nature. Mm-hmm. And you're ready for anything, really.
Dude, this place is so different than anything I'm familiar with. That's my excuse.
Anyway, Brian, as he comes off this hill, comes through the one brush patch I haven't checked yet. And so I'm just perplexed, knowing, confident this bull is not left yet. I'm thinking, we just checked everything. So when I get to Brian gets to me, actually, I say, Brian, did you check that brush patch? He goes, well, yeah, I just walked right through that opening in it.
Not 18 yards from
It's a skinny little sliver of shrubby trees, by the way.
Surely there's no elk in there, and if he is,
he would never let you walk.
He would never let me walk practically on top of him.
As I'm asking Brian about this brush patch, I'm looking at it, and I'm not like the quickest thinker in the world, I guess, because as I'm asking him, I'm looking at this object in the brush patch that looks an awful lot like an elk.
And I'm looking at Anthony's face, and I see some shock.
He sees the light come on, and I'm like, Brian, did you check that brush patch? You go, yeah, I just walked right through it.
At about the same time I see the look on his face, I'm whipping my head around because I can tell
something's not right.
He's seen something.
And so I throw my glasses up, and sure enough, there is that bull bedded less than 20 yards from where Brian walked through the brush patch. And he's facing straight away from us. We're 85, 90 yards from him. The bull is not looking at us. He either doesn't know we're there, which obviously was not the case, but he was basically playing like a quail and holding tight. So anyway, we have this master plan that we're going to sneak up there and get this shot on video, and this ordeal is finally going to come to a close. And I sneak up there with all the stealth of a cougar. I just honestly believed he was so hurt that there was nowhere he was going to go. And that was not the case. So I got to 75 yards. I ranged him. I set my pin to 75, but I'm thinking, I'm going to get to 30, That's still open, that fridge.
Well, and I had told you, hey, dude, that bull is not going anywhere. I mean, I walked right
Brian
on top of him.
Brian expressed such confidence.
Well, you did. You bought it hook, line, and sinker, too.
And so anyway, at that 75-yard mark, when we're just thinking we're hot stuff and this is over with, that bull just rockets out of his bed. Does not stop to look back. He knew we were there that whole time. He was just not going to look at us. I think it's kind of if I don't see you, you don't see me. But he knew we were onto him, and he rocketed out of there, and he was gone. So, man, I just sprinted up to that little rise Brian was on to get a view of where he was going, and he went into this little burnt-out aspen patch, and he bedded right away. And so we knew he was just hurting bad.
Well, I got the camera on him the whole time.
Get the camera on him.
And he just keeps walking and then bedding.
Lay down. Come on, lay down. Lay down. Yes. Go down. Oh, yes. Oh, what a relief.
Yeah, but he'll bed. He beds there 2-3 minutes, and he gets up and walks, and then he beds, and
he looked like that little bit of pressure you were giving him was going to push him over. I mean, he looked hurt.
Yeah, so as he bedded in the aspens, I thought, well, how can I stalk him? I start trying to plan out a stalking route. It was next to impossible, but I was going to figure something out, and then he'd get up and move, and then he'd get up and move again, and then finally he just started leaving the basin.
And then when he decided he was done and he was leaving, he was leaving.
Yeah, he was moving then. It's like all of a sudden
he wasn't hurt, really.
And keep in mind, this whole time we'd been following his trail, no blood.
Yeah.
No blood. We could see his front left leg was bloody, but we couldn't see any blood on the ground. So anyway, I just decide, in Aaron Snyder fashion, actually.
Yeah, he had said this on an earlier podcast.
I had literally just listened to this podcast on the way to the trail. I've never just muscle shot an elk by luck, right? I'm not saying I'm so good that I always smoke them. I'm just saying I'd never hit an elk and just muscle. But I started assuming that's what had happened because he's just limping on that left front leg. And Aaron had said, in his experience, you hit one in the muscle, you better just push him. You better run him down. And so I decided, I made up my mind that, come heck or high water, that's what I was going to do, is just run this bull down. And so I took off after him up this.
And keep in mind, our packs and all of our stuff are behind us. Now that this bull's on the move, if we're going to keep an eye on it, we just got to go. We can't run back.
Packs are a couple hundred yards behind us. We thought we were going to sneak up and finish this elk off. So
right.
We
had just dropped the packs off when we got into this business. Now he's running, and we don't have radios, so I'm not sure.
Well, we got one.
I have a radio, and Anthony does not.
One radio is not a whole lot of help.
No, it's not.
So anyway,
I'm like, Anthony, get your radio out.
I don't have a radio. And so I decided to take off after this bull. I don't even know where Brian is at this point. I just take off running.
Well, I run over the ridge top because once he goes over this top of this ridge, he's either going to go up the canyon or down the canyon or across it. So I just wanted to make sure I got into position where I could see it if it ran up the canyon. I'd be out in front of it.
Keep in mind, guys, Brian's bowless at this point. He doesn't have a tag, so he's just along to help. And be a set of eyes. So I take off running. This bull can see me. If you guys watch the video, you'll see this country doesn't have cover really. And so I take off chasing this bull down, and elk are faster than I am. So he clears the next basin, and I get into that one, and he's on the next one. And I get into that one, and he's on the next one. And I'm running down every hill, and I'm going up every hill as fast as my legs can carry me. I'm screaming for oxygen. And finally, I see him go through a big saddle, and I just take off running for the saddle. I get over there. He's 1,000 yards in front of me and spots me and takes off running, and I at that point, I knew I was hosed because I didn't have my pack. I had already checked. I carry a pocket knife in my pocket that had fallen out, and I'd lost it.
Clipped in there.
And I knew I had nothing, but I'm like, I'm committed to chase this elk down. So I just took off down that 1,000-yard.
That's a mistake we will never make again.
That was a mistake. I don't know really how to remedy it when you're chasing them like that, but
just
whatever.
Have that knife in my pocket from now on, you know. Or my bino harness. That's what I'm going to do. Put a little kill kit stuff.
Yeah, just a little mini one even.
That's where you got survival stuff too. You just never know when you're going to drop it all. And
no, it was dumb. It's a rookie mistake is what it was. Dropping my pack, dropping everything. And so anyway, I take off down this hill. I watch him bed in a cut. I barely keep in mind this country is so wide open that he beds in every brush patch he comes to practically, which are all about 1,000 yards apart. But he just sits there and watches his back trail. Well, the country's so open that I would just barely peek my head over a ridge, and he would spot me, and off he'd go. And, of course, I'm a religious man, and I had been praying about as fervently as I've, prayed, which I seem to find myself in that position, elk hunting a lot. But, at that point, I was, like I say, I was asking for help pretty hard that bull would stop, and he's a good 1,000 yards from me going down a dry creek bed. And I see him going to some thick spot of it, and he doesn't come out the other side. And so I'm thinking maybe he stopped there.
Now, how far have you gone now?
At that point, I'm probably in the 2.5 mile range.
And how much elevation drop?
Well, at that point, I hadn't dropped a ton. I'd done mostly climbing. But at the point where I saw him down there, he was, from top to bottom, was 2,600 feet elevation below me.
Yeah. In a mile?
Yeah, I mean, some of that elevation spread out, but the majority of it was where I spotted him and down.
It feels straight up and down.
It's vertical as anything I've ever hunted. So I took off running down there until I got fairly close. And then, of course, I slowed way down. And never did see him leave that creek bed, so I was fairly confident he was in there somewhere. And I just started sneaking up to that creek bed and peeking over, and then I'd sneak down farther and peek over, and I just about passed him in the creek bed. I got just about past where he was, and I looked down, and he was like 15 yards away bedded. And so I frantically knocked my release, or put my release in my loop, which took me a lot longer than it normally does, and shot him at about 15 yards. He was kind of bedded facing away from me. He had his head tipped back like this, and his horns were just framing his body, and I just put it in the center of his body and shot him, and he got up out of his bed and lurched a few yards.
And he went down.
Well, yeah, and went down in a huge, like, gorgeous pile of multicolored poison ivy patch. And so, anyway, I was obviously relieved that we'd finally put an end to this ordeal and had a beautiful bull down, but Brian had no idea where I was, I thought. I had no knife, no pack, no bags, no water, no food. I had my bow and my rangefinder and my release and my binoculars.
I had run into this nice guy who was up on the mountain there, and he saw Anthony go down the hill after that bull. He saw Anthony chase the bull over the ridge. And I had gone up in front of him, and I thought they had beat me to the top and over the ridge. Well, he waved me down from a long distance and was like giving me hand signals that Anthony didn't go down there.
Yeah, that I'd gone down a different drainage.
Right. So I was able to circle back up, go to the top, and then look down where maybe he went, and I just got like 2 seconds later, I'd have missed him. But I saw Anthony just barely...
Just caught a glimpse of me for 2 seconds, right?
Yeah. And it must have been right when you shot the bull, too, like right after you shot him.
Yeah, and I was way below you.
I mean, you were like a dot, so far away. And so I just started heading down. I knew I had to get down there quick, or you might end up going into another ridge. I knew at that point, I knew Anthony was just running the bull down.
And you getting after me quick meant how long?
It took me like 30 minutes, I think.
To drop elevation.
Of full speed, like
running.
I'm going downhill fast.
Yeah, so it was rough. So anyway, I did the best I could. I thought, I'm in a predicament now. I got to figure out a solution here, and it's cooking hot. There's no shade. The bull's dead in a dry creek bottom full of poison ivy. So the only thing I got on me is another broadhead, and so I take a slick trick broadhead blade out. And I start trying to quarter this bull, and that was not going well. I had just kind of cut down his back line and cut around his hind knee and was going to try to take the leg off when I spotted Brian up top of the hill. He actually bugled, and I heard him.
I couldn't find you. I was like, crud. I got all the way down to this 3 mile. We're 3.5 miles from where we dropped our packs at this point.
Yeah,
I've never been here before, and I'm like...
We're 3.15 miles, and we're 2,600 feet elevation from where we dropped our packs.
And I'm thinking, did he get that bull? I mean, where...
And I'm thinking Brian's like an angel from above, because surely Brian doesn't have surely he has a knife, right? I mean, who goes out without a knife other than me, or loses it? And no, Brian doesn't have a knife either.
We've dropped like 2,500 feet elevation from where our backpacks are. So when we had him bedded up there in that brush patch, and I should have killed him. And finally he was just going, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm running him down. I'm gonna push him and push him and push him until he does not want to go anymore. So I just take off running through that basin, up the other one. By the time I get over, he'd already crested, so he was gone. So I booked through that one as fast as that. My anchors are rolling, and I'm going anyway, I'm just going for all I'm worth. Going in, I come out to the next one, and I see him in a far saddle. I mean, he's 400 or 500 yards in front of me. He's in a saddle, so I start walking that way. Well, he turns around and sees me and just bolts.
Really?
Just bolts.
He looked so hurt
right there.
He looked so hurt.
I know.
This
seriously.
morning, like he couldn't get up. Like he bedded within 20 yards of me. I walked around him,
and he
didn't even move.
Oh, and so anyway, I start coming over this saddle. I had to book it through that basin, come over the saddle. I'm looking for them. Well, then I see elk everywhere on the other side. Huge herd of elk.
They bust over.
Yeah.
And then I chased those guys.
Oh,
I'm looking, I'm like, is that the limping bull at the end? Where's Anthony?
And we make the decision, I'm going to climb a ridge and call for maybe some help, because we are not anywhere we can get back to our vehicles, even if we pack this bull out. Nothing's easy, but in any, reasonable way.
Yeah.
And so the phone doesn't work. So anyway, long story short, Brian and I decided to just hike back to the packs. We got
no choice.
We got no choice.
You just got to man up and do it.
Dumb. I'm so dead. I drove all night, didn't sleep. Got on that bull this morning. Everything happened so fast. I gotta hurry back because we have got to get that thing opened up.
So we climbed back to 2,600 feet and 3.15 miles. Keep in mind, this is after no sleep for 2 days and a brutal night and a brutal day before, and it was kind of this cumulative.
Climbing up that hill was just like, it was just a heartbreaker, but
Anthony just had to go and run that bull down to the very bottom of the canyon. The bottom. I don't know. This is killing me.
Yeah. So we climb up, we meet at the packs. We drink as much fluids as we could possibly hold. We almost vomit because we were so dehydrated and drank too much at once. And then we head back down, turn around and do it again.
it feels good knowing, though, that the bull's down. I mean...
Yeah, we're worried about spoilage at this point.
We're just booking because we're trying to make sure we can save all that meat, and it's hot. It's freaking hot.
And so we get back down to the bull, and we're really worried, but he ends up being pretty dang good, actually. It was a dry creek bottom, but there was just a little seep underneath him.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped cool him.
Cool enough that it...
And so we boned him out, and we thought we'd man up and pack him out in one load.
Well, I was doing it, but you were struggling.
We kind of divided the elk up, not quite in half. You had a little more than I did, but then I was going to take the head and horns.
Yeah.
And you had my bow. So, I don't know. I've never really worn a 200-plus pound pack, but I think that night I had a 200-plus pound pack on.
We didn't get far.
And do we make it? How many miles do we make it?
I think we made it 200 yards.
I think about 200 yards. We figured out that was the dumbest thing we've ever tried.
Yeah.
We're not man enough to hike a big bull.
Especially after cumulative, so round trip, okay, we hiked in. It was about 3 miles in, another 3.5 miles to get the bull, and we ran that. And then it was 3.5 miles back up, so we're pushing 10 miles now.
No, we figured it out. It was 12 miles.
Total round trip for the day was 12 miles.
And
but we had about a mile left on us. So we gone 11 miles plus all that elevation.
That's right.
And now we're trying to pack out a 200-pound pack, and we haven't. And I haven't slept. You only slept a few hours.
Yeah, so
I
it
haven't
didn't
slept
work.
for 48 hours now.
All those excuses total up to why we couldn't pack 225-pound packs.
Which maybe we don't need an excuse for. But
and
it did bother me.
And we were just clawing our way through poison ivy the entire way, and thistles, and it was nasty, and it was miserable. Brian told me he hated me, I think.
Well, in moments of weakness.
Told me we were stupid to ever try to hunt this area. We'll never hunt it again.
I was sitting there coming down the trail. I hate Anthony Spencer. I hate him. He's an idiot. No, I didn't mean it, Anthony. They were just words of
I didn't take it personal. I actually, you know what? I actually kind of really liked that I got to see the weak side in you. For a minute, you put off your Superman cape and... admitted that you have weakness like every other man.
Yeah, fatigue makes cowards out of us all.
Yeah.
All right.
Heading back up the hill. Time for trip number 2.
Last night we got the meat out. What time?
10:30 is when we got down here, and then got home about 12:30 or 1.
Yeah.
So we left, maybe 80 pounds of meat up there. The head, my bow, a little bit of camera gear.
Yep.
I'm not too worried about the gear. There's no fool on the planet who's dumb enough to go in here.
Well, it was awesome the way we loaded up last night, like 200-pound packs plus.
We had this whole elk boned out, and the head, and all our gear on our 2 packs.
Got about 200 yards down the trail, and stuff started falling on us. We started dropping crap along the trail.
Decided that it was not going to happen.
It's too much weight.
Too brushy, too much poison oak everywhere, poison ivy.
You're scaling the side of cliffs that are, these hills are like straight up and down in some of these spots.
Well, we were kind of stuck in the
a
brushy
few of
creek
those,
bottom too.
just like what's behind us here, just straight up on the side, so had to take it easy. So
yeah.
All right, well, I'm not looking forward to this. My feet are toast.
Yeah, we got blisters and hot spots, and
my legs feel good. I feel fine otherwise, but my feet are just hurting.
And my knees and my feet. My muscles aren't sore at all. Like leg muscles, they feel totally normal, but my knees are swollen.
I'm running a major sleep deficit right now. Like,
dude, you just had like 7 hours, man.
16, about something like around it. Probably 16, 20 hours of lack of sleep over the past 2 weeks.
Dude, you can't count that up and keep holding on to it.
You have
6,
to.
8
It's
hours,
like,
you're good to go. It's all refreshed.
It's all started over. It
starts over.
It's all over
As soon
again.
as you get like 6 to 7 hours, it starts over.
That's not how it works, dude. That's how it works in Spencer's mind. All right.
All right. So anyway, we get it out though. We dump in an ecothermal corridor.
We dump a bunch of meat. You know, in a very carefully chosen place.
Right.
That we luckily found the next day.
All right, we're checking the meat. Smell it?
Dude, it smells awesome.
Yeah.
This
is what we call an ecothermal corridor, which we strategically found.
Well, I typed that in my GPS, ecothermal corridor, and it located this
spot.
This
is where we have stored the meat for the night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you wouldn't just put it anywhere as you're packing down the mountain.
In a moment of desperate need.
What kind of elk hunter would just drop weight off their pack, drop meat in the head? You know, you wouldn't just dump it without thinking.
Or your bow and all your equipment,
and camera equipment.
It's like littered down the canyon. We got to go up like another 50 yards. There's a trail of gear.
The elk head got left way back. In fact, I thought about never coming back for it.
Sweet, I'm so glad that meat's okay. I wanted to carry that out, I just didn't have it in me.
You know, it doesn't seem like we dump much.
That's heavy though. How much do you think that weighs?
Difference.
Go ahead, say 50 pounds.
I think it's 30.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about a 25-pound plate, that's heavier than that, right? It might even be 35.
Yeah. That's heavy. Well, and then you add,
What's the bow?
the rest
the bow's
of the
like
stuff.
6, 7 pounds. The things.
It was what I needed to lose in order to get off this
Well, you know what?
trail.
You probably were pretty close to 50 pounds. At least 40.
In gear, yeah.
In gear. 40 pounds make a huge difference on a 200-pound pack.
Well,
You know?
looks like looks like the meat's all right. So
this is good. We'll check the next one. But this stuff's cold as can be, man. It feels great. Those tag bags are awesome.
yeah, really impressed with those tag bags. All right, let's go get your stuff up here.
Yeah.
It's time for the head.
We dump the head. We dump a sack of meat each.
Yep.
So we figured about 35 pounds of meat each. We dumped, and then the head, and you dump my bow.
And the monopod
And the monopod, some camera gear.
I probably dropped 40 pounds.
Yeah, and I probably dropped. So after we dropped, your pack actually was heavier than mine then. And we manned up and got that out, and got out about midnight or 12:30 or 1 or something like that. We got up the next morning and went back in and got the head and the rest of the meat, and it was still good, thank goodness, because of the ecothermal corridor.
That's right. We learned that from Mr. Aaron Snyder himself.
An ecothermal corridor isn't a shady spot. It is a spot that a lot of times animals will bed all day long because it is cool all day long.
All right, checking the meat bag too. This one wasn't as strategically placed.
That smells fine.
Sweet.
This one's not as big as yours either. I had
But
that.
you got that. It's a big bull. It's a nice bull.
Will do. It always cracks me up. People ask, is it a good one?
You're like,
well, I guess that depends on your idea of a good one.
right.
Because if it wasn't a good one for me, I wouldn't have shot it. So yeah, it's a good one. Well, I mean, who wouldn't drop their meat in an
Totally.
ectothermal corridor?
It's just like, and we planned it.
Yeah.
Meat was great, though.
The meat was great,
Which was a big concern,
we live on this meat year round, and we actually had just run out of the elk we'd killed last year and some deer, and so this was perfect. As much as I appreciated Brian's help, I'm not happy I got to share half my bowl with him now, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
There's still a lot of season left.
Small price to pay, yeah, and hopefully Ben's going to kill a bull, and he can't take it back to Virginia, so we're set if he does.
Poor guy. Ship him some jerky.
Yeah, so, and then we weren't done at that point, though. We got the elk out the next morning, the rest of the elk.
Yep.
Then we had to drive 3.5 hours around to the trailhead and go back up to the top and get our camp, which we ended up there at about 11:30 at night and decided to just sleep up there because we were too tired. We wouldn't have got back till 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it was brutal.
So we spent one more night in the mountain, listened to some bulls screaming, and had a good night's sleep. It was an awesome night. Stars were just brilliant, and it was a great night. And got up in the morning, headed out, got home, and we're cutting elk.
Yeah, I got to head home as soon as we get this butchered. And
we'll do it again in a few weeks.
So, what's your biggest takeaways from this?
Well, this was my first year archery hunting this wide open country.
Yep, where you use the decoy, and it's just folks. If you watch the video, you'll see what the country looks like.
It's about. I mean, I'm sure somebody.
This is from Western Oregon.
I'm sure somebody could come up with a location that might have less cover than this, but you'll be hard pressed to. But the elk are there, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a whole bunch about stalking these elk and hunting them in that open country. It's really an extreme chess match. You're really just putting yourself in a position that's as close as you can. Sometimes that's 400 yards, sometimes that's 100 yards, and you're waiting for them to make a mistake and capitalize on it. And luckily, I spent 2 days in there before I stuck that bull, and it was the second bull that I, had the opportunity to shoot. The first one I loused up a little bit, but so it worked out well. Little experiment turned out well for us, and the next day after Brian got some sleep, he kind of rethought his position on never hunting here again.
Well, it's funny because when we went back in to get the rest of that meat the next morning after we had a rest, I walked in, we were both going, why was this so hard? This was not that difficult.
Well, when you can see where to walk, though, and you can see the best trails
and you got
versus
fresh
at night.
legs, and you got some sleep. I mean, it was a cumulative effect of a lot of things that made that last mile in the dark feel like
it was almost
impossible.
Unbearable. But those things are good for you. It's always good to challenge yourself a little bit and not quit. And I thought you were going to quit on me. No, it turned out good. And now I think, you've rethought your position, right, on hunting here. You were still wanting to come and buy a tag and give it a try. And we're going to do our best to get Ben a bull this year first. But it's really what it boils down. I'm a little selfish. I didn't want to wait till he was here in case he doesn't get one. Then I wouldn't have got a chance to kill one.
So what do you think about, tracking the wounded bull and all that and running a bull down?
Well,
it's
going to be very dependent on your environment, because we were in such open country that when he got 1,000 yards ahead of me, I could see him still.
Right.
And so, you're up in the timber. That's not going to happen. He gets 200-300 yards ahead of you. You're losing him if he's not bleeding.
He's gone. Yeah.
And so
you couldn't do it really if he wasn't bleeding.
No.
In dense country like what we hunt in Oregon,
and
usually,
I know you could never tell by looking at me, but I'm not an endurance athlete. So it's not that I was in such phenomenal endurance condition that I could chase him down. What it took was a mindset of, I am stubborn.
Yeah.
And so, and that was the other thing I learned this week, is I'm really not a very good elk hunter. I can screw up a lot of things really quickly, but I am persistent and I am stubborn. And when I had made up my mind I wasn't going to quit running that bull, again, there was probably a little divine intervention there. But luckily he bedded up, and I was able to finally if I had given up on him, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So he bedded up and was able to put a stock on him and finish him off, which was really satisfying. And I didn't even realize that. I don't even know if you can see the rack in the camera. It's sitting right there. I guess we didn't.
A little bit.
Hadn't thought about that, but yeah, he's a nice bull. You know, everybody, is he a good one? Well, it's always a good one, or I wouldn't have shot him. Good one to me.
Right.
May not be a good one to you, but they're all a good one to me, or else I won't shoot him. So yeah, he's a good one for me, and I couldn't be more happy with him. He's not the biggest bull I shot, but he's a good bull, and he's pretty.
So what's your going into this next couple of weeks, kind of what's your strategy,
Well, the next couple of weeks, I'm really just going to try to get my kids out and do a little elk hunting until you guys get here.
Mm-hmm.
But when you guys get here, they're going to be cranking a little more. Now, keep in mind, I saw plenty of rutting activity this first week. You know, everybody says that they're not rutting. They want to wait till they're rutting.
It was pretty intense, wasn't it?
I saw cows being bred. I got actually some footage of a cow breeding, doing her best to breed a bull, which was interesting. But, you know, in this day and age, I'm not judging. I think the elk herds are going to be in trouble if they don't figure that out. But no, I saw plenty of rutting action.
She mounted a bull?
She mounted a bull 3 times, actually.
And the bull's response
the bull hung out like he was fully, okay with that.
He was tired?
He was tired, I guess, because shortly after he bedded down and laid his head flat on the ground, his rack was suspending it in the air and conked out pretty much. But, it was really cool. It's a very different type of elk hunt, and I'm confident we can do it again with Ben here, as long as he can, hang in that country. It is very, very, very vertical.
Physically demanding.
It's physically demanding. You're dropping 1,500 feet to get anywhere and climbing it again because these elk just move all over, and you're just constantly trying to stay as close as you can to them, which, again, sometimes is not very close. All you can do is put yourself in the best position to capitalize on somewhere that they go into, and you can get up closer. It's you got to.
Is that kind of what your usual strategy was? Where you were just getting in as close as you could, and based on the wind and where you were at, sometimes you just got pinned down 200 yards away.
I got pinned down at times 100 yards from elk for one time was over 4 hours. I got pinned down.
You just had to sit there,
sleeping in the cooking hot sun. I used my backpack to put it over my head and try to shield me because I was just cooking so bad. But then pretty soon it's raining, and you know how it is. The weather's always changing, and and then eventually
you just kind of have to get as close as you can, and then hope something works out.
Well, and I've had that. I've used that technique hunting mule deer in the rut. You hunt mule deer in the rut, and there's a million does around, and the bucks are chasing them, running everywhere. They're really not bedding for very long, and so I've always just tried to put myself as close as I dared.
Bow hunting in the rut, and hope that something happens. And sometimes that something is them getting up and leaving, and you just got to do it all over again. You got to not get frustrated, do it all over again. And it was the same thing here. How do you think this hunting elk here compares to hunting mule deer in open country?
It was actually had a lot of similarities to hunting open country mule deer, which I didn't grow up doing, but since I've been here 5 years, I've had the opportunity to do quite a bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very similar to open country mule deer hunting. You did a little bit calling, and
because you can,
and I had some marginal success, close calls, doing some calling. Called in one little raghorn to about 60 yards. But, for the most part, what I found was you bet them and spot and stock them in the morning. And then that didn't work out for me on that big first bull. And then you've just lost a bunch of elevation probably. And so what you do is, based on what you saw the day before and what you know of their patterns, you put yourself in a position for the evening to hope they kind of come out and get in your way, or get in front of them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It worked real close the first night. I had calves all around me and cows, and just the bulls weren't with them. And then the second night, that's pretty much exactly how it worked out. I'd seen where they bedded earlier in the day, and so I got as close as I dared with the wind and
to that bedding area. Waited for them to come back.
Waited for them to come out, and when they did, I busted my hump as hard as I could to get out in front of them, and I got in front, just using the steepness of the hill as cover. I had no cover. Mm-hmm. The hill was just so steep that if I dropped below them, they couldn't see me.
You really have to use the folds of the land. There's not any real trees or brush. I mean, now and then there is, but mostly it's...
Well, here's a good example. So the first night there, I glassed up that 7x8 out in a flat, or on a ridgetop, with 76 cows, okay, a bunch of little bulls, 76 elk, I should say. And he's a bull I knew I'd watched all last year. I really wanted him, even though he probably scored 310, 320. I don't really care about that. He's just a big mature bull, 7x8. I called him Saw Blade because after his fourth tine on his left side, he's 5, 6, 7, and his main beam are all right in a row, real short points, look like a saw blade. And so, anyway, that night when I spotted him, I didn't think I could get closer than 1,000 yards. I just watched him until dark. The next morning, he was in the exact same spot with just about the same number of elk, but I had a whole day of studying it, that morning, and I saw a little fold. I'm thinking, I think I can get to that fold, and I'll be closer. And when I got to that fold, I think I can get to that fold, and I'll be closer. And when I got to that one, I thought, you know what? I got nothing better to do. What if I just started butt crawling in the grass? I'm in plain view of them, and they're still, 600, 700 yards away. But, I might only make 6 inches every time I move, but what else do I have to do? So I started, and 2 hours later, another little cut opens up, and I slip down into that one, and next thing I know, here's a 7x8 feeding up towards me, below me. Doesn't know I'm there. The wind's in my face by then. It's coming uphill and slipped in on. If it wasn't for those does, I'm confident I would have taken that bull with me,
Yeah.
So,
it reminds me a lot of what South Cox described in that podcast, did with him on mule deer.
Yeah. No, it really is.
Really similar.
It really is. And some guys, like Corey Jacobson, man, he probably would hate that hunt, or he just wouldn't attack it that way. He'd want to call to him and do it a different way, and
he's
that's
used
great.
Decoys and done that.
Right. I just I love to call elk more than anything else, but at the same time, I'll kill him any way I can kill him.
You like spot and stock,
and I do. I've always liked spot and stock.
Been.
I grew up still hunting for blacktails, which is a futile game, but I ended up having marginal success with it. I've killed some pretty good bucks that way, and so it's always been something that I kind of enjoy doing.
Right.
So I don't care. I mean, I love to call them in, but if I can't, then however I can get up on them is fine with me. I'm just not as good of a caller, I guess. I will tell you this story. This bull that I killed, before I saw him bed, I was watching these 25, 26 cows, a bunch of little spikes and forks, and up the ridge from me, were out of view, I heard just a nasty, rank bugle, like really close to me. And I had wondered where this bull had went. I'd seen him earlier with these cows. And so I grabbed my bow. I was actually in the middle of sending Brian a text about him meeting me the next day, and I just threw it in my pocket and grabbed my bow and took off running up the ridge to see where this bugle was coming from. And as I do that, I hear horns just start locking, full on fight. I'm grinning ear to ear. I'm
this
thinking
is like the first week of September.
Yeah. This is like the 4th day of the season, 4th or 5th. So anyway, I get up there and I'm thinking this is just going to be money. I'm picturing all the video I've seen of your uncle, with his stalking bulls that are fighting, out in the open and
in Arizona.
And I'm just, I have this vision in my mind that I'm going to shoot this thing as he's fighting. And I get over the hill. Well, the horns didn't last more than 10, 15 seconds. I get over the hill and there's a nice 6-point leaving this other bull that I ended up shooting. And so I'm thinking this other bull is the one that won, and the other, the 6-point, they're about the same antler size, but the other 6 points leaving. And I realized that I am now like real close to being right in between these 25 cows and that bull. So once again, the grin is on. I'm thinking this is money. And I get into the saddle directly between him and these cows, and I'm thinking, oh, this bull is so dead, right? So I stick that little heads-up decoy to where he could just barely see it over the rise. It's on my bow, and I cow call, and he kind of looks my way. He's facing the other way, but he looks my way.
How far away now?
He's like 200 yards.
And you're between him and his cows.
I'm between him and his cows. His cows are over the saddle.
You got a decoy, and you're a cow.
I got a decoy. I cow call, and he bugles kind of half-heartedly. And as he bugles, I cut him off with a kind of a nasty bugle.
Doing the old like aggressive Jason Phelps.
Yeah. And so, and by the way, you'll have to include a snapshot of my grunt tube because I lost mine. So I cut up an Aquafina water bottle and duct taped it.
Well done, my friend.
Hey, you got to adapt. And I bugle and cut him off, and then he just whips around and faces me. That got his attention big time. But he just sat there watching, wasn't moving. Keep in mind, I don't have the decoy up like plain view. I just got it where you can just see the head over the rise of the hill there. And nothing. He's just staring. So then I let out a few more cow calls. And this time he lets out a ripper bugle, like he's mad. And I full on cut him off, bugle and chuckles and, the whole 9 yards. And
you're thinking, man,
this guy's coming. I honestly, even in that Aquafina ball, I thought, no, that's good. That's a done deal. That bull's done. And I didn't sooner finish that bugle as that bull turned and ran for all he was worth, leaving that drainage. Oops. Whatever I said, I did not say it right. Because he left, and I don't know, the wind was kind of blowing into that drainage, but it was blowing, angling to my left, and he was angled to my right, so who knows? Maybe he winded me, maybe I suck, Maybe I blew the get out of here call, unbeknownst to me, but so he bolts. I mean, he's gone. And I go running as fast as I can to get that next drainage to look into, which takes me 10 minutes,
Yeah.
And I get over there, and I see him 2 drainages away with 5 or 6 or 8
He's
cows.
out of there.
He's out of there, but I see him head up, and then it kind of dawns on me, maybe I wasn't between him and his cows. Maybe his cows were the other direction.
That's kind of critical.
That makes me sleep better.
Right.
Thinking I didn't just blow him out. But anyway, whatever it was, I saw him bed, and that's when I went after him that night and ended up shooting him that night.
And this is this bull right here.
Same bull, yeah. Same bull. So he's a 6x7. He grew an extra eye guard on his left side, little, 7, 8 inch
He's
eye
cool.
guard.
His antlers swoop in kind of cool.
Yeah, his 5s swoop in towards the middle of his rack. They're kind of neat. He's got some character. He's real pretty. I couldn't be more happy with him.
Yeah, the meat just, it's very interesting because we really were concerned that it was just going to rot. It was going to spoil before we could get our packs and get back down there. And it kept really well.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it was in the sun, definitely when we cut it open, it was like on fire.
Oh,
the meat was on fire.
Almost like it burned your hands.
We thought,
to be in there.
And it was, it kind of had a smell. The look wasn't right. We just started breaking it down as fast as we could.
Well, yeah. So we luckily I think that little seep underneath him, seep of water, is a little muddy.
Well, when we flipped him over, the side that was in the sun was real hot and didn't look. It was. But when we flipped him over, the other side looked like it was fresh.
Well,
and
it was
cold.
cooler.
The meat was cold,
which
too.
is usually the opposite. Like the side on the ground is the side that cooks usually.
Yeah.
But I think because it was muddy under him, it kept him cooler, and I think that helped us.
Yeah.
But luckily, we love our elk meat, and so we were really glad that was salvageable, and it turned out well.
Suzanne's, my wife's like, she's ultra pumped about all the meat coming home.
How's your wife going to feel that another man's supplying her family with meat?
She's going to know that a big part of this was me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, and the idea is that I kill one later this season, and then and you get
we'll
the
split
other
it
half.
up. No, but we decided to split it this year, and then, like I said, Ben can't take his meat on the airplane back to Virginia, or he's not willing to fly it home, so he said we could just have it.
Yep.
So we were pretty pumped about that, and
absolutely.
We do a lot of burger, as you can see. I steak the best of the back quarter and the tenderloins, the back strap, and everything else I do in burger. My family just eats a ton of burger, so that's what we're doing. All these buckets or bowls are just burger meat.
We grind it up.
So grind it up and turn it to nice lean burger and feeds us hopefully all year. But we need more than one.
Yeah. Last year, how many elk did you bring home?
My daughter killed a nice 6x7. Actually, it would have been a 7x8 if he wasn't so broken up. But nice bull, real nice bull. That one actually, Eastman's. I don't know how they got that picture, but they got that picture somehow and emailed me and asked if they could put it on. I think they just shared it on their Facebook page as like bull of the day or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Put that on there. That was kind of neat. So she killed that, and then I went out elk hunting one day last year with a rifle. I hadn't rifle hunted elk since I was a little kid playing football and couldn't archery hunt. And I decided to buy a rifle tag at the last minute and went out for one day with my good friend Rod and packed back in 12 miles into an area, and he shot a little 260-inch 6x7, and I shot a 318-inch 6x6 with a rifle. So we had 2 bulls last year, and then my daughter and my son both killed their first bucks last year too. So
you had a lot of meat last year.
We had a lot of meat, but we shared about half of all that with a neighbor, good friend of mine, that wanted some meat, and so we gave about half of all that. Him and his daughter. Oops, I just threw it in the wrong pile. Him and his daughter came and helped me cut it all up, and then I gave them half, and they were tickled, and I was glad to have the help. So really, I guess you can cut that in half. We really ate a deer and an elk, but it's been gone for a month now, and so this was welcome to be.
Yeah, what do you think about? You know, you have lots of beef you can get, and
we don't eat beef.
Yeah,
we don't eat beef. Period. Like unless we go to somebody's house and they serve it, or we're at a restaurant. I don't dislike beef, but I love elk. It's healthier. Came from my hands or my kids' hands. You know, my kids feel awesome when they were eating their meat. You know, when we package our meat, we don't put just elk, deer. We put Kendall's elk, Brett's deer. You know, they want to know whose we're eating when we eat it. So, which is cool. I'm all for that.
Well, I think it's cool because they know where meat comes from.
Yeah, and so I
mean, that's just not a thing today. Like, it just isn't.
Well, and we buy pork and we buy chicken and fish occasionally.
Bacon is
but we don't,
hard to resist.
Yeah, but we don't buy beef ever, except for like when we ran out of elk a month ago. We bought a little bit and felt really weird. And it actually tastes weird. It doesn't taste the same. It used to, you know, when we first started eating elk, we ate it, but it tasted different because we were so used to beef. But then now that we've eaten elk for, I don't think we've bought beef in 4 or 5 years. We buy beef now and it tastes weird. You know, so anyway.
Yeah, same here. It's been like, since I haven't had deer or elk in the freezer, it'd been like 5 years. And last year I still got some meat in the freezer, some doe, but didn't get an elk last year. Didn't really hunt much. But beef at the store is really not all that appealing.
No. And the thing is, like we mentioned this earlier, I can go enjoy a good beef steak. It's great, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to eat it every day.
Yeah.
I'd be sick to my stomach. Like, I can eat elk every day.
And it doesn't seem to bother.
No, it doesn't bother me at all. You know, it's great. Enjoy it every day.
Yeah. Same here. Like, we do eat it every day.
Yeah.
And it's not the same as when I eat beef every day.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Beef is a little richer, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Now, I do love the pork, though. We eat a lot of pork.
You're kind of porky, so.
Thank you. Anyway. Good stuff. It's been a good season so far. We got a lot to go. I'm glad of that.
Yeah. I would say hopefully we can do another one.
Yeah.
Well,
do we got another bag of meat?
I
think there's
so.
a backstrap in there.
Let's wrap this podcast
Wrap it up
before we're done. Thanks for listening. Check out the podcast on the video version on Gritty Bowman TV on iTunes or on Podbean. And like I said, we're going to throw a lot of video in here from this experience.
Got some good pictures.
Yeah, and pictures. So check that out.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching.
All right.
Bye.
All right, friends. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Don't forget about our deal with Mountain Ops. Type in the word gritty at checkout and get 20% off until the end of the year. For those of you who have not seen the Full Draw Film Tour this year and want to go, check out their website for their tour schedule. And if you haven't done so, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel or to the Gritty Bowman TV podcast on iTunes or Podbean so you can see all the latest video content we have produced. And be sure to have a look at the new Elk 101 website where you can find our podcast and other great elk hunting content. Thank you for taking the time to leave us your feedback. We really appreciate your sincere support of our show. Finally, let me leave you with this quote by President Theodore Roosevelt, who in 1905 said, "In a civilized and cultivated country, wild animals only continue to exist at all when preserved by sportsmen. The excellent people who protest against all hunting and consider sportsmen as enemies of wildlife are ignorant of the fact that in reality, the genuine sportsman is by all odds the most important factor in keeping the larger and more valuable wild creatures from total extermination." Friends, always take the time to educate those around you about your role as a hunter in preserving the wild creatures of this world. If you don't, who will? As always, good luck on your hunts,
and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.